Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist and I own 54 units of real estate. Sorry, I'm in the garage today, so it's a little bit dark, so I look a little mysterious and creepy. But today I want to talk a concept called do more before striving for better and new. So I heard this phrase from Alex Hormozy and it kind of got me to self-reflect on my real estate journey. And anytime that I deviated for new or better, which is a form of shiny object syndrome in real estate, that's when I lost money. So for example, I started buying single family homes in California, the Bay Area, because I lived in the Bay Area and I was house hacking properties. I moved to Southern California. I bought another property that I was wanting to house hack, ended up not house hacking it. So this is obviously, I can't tell if it's more, but it's definitely like a new location, but it's the same asset class, right? It's been single family homes that I've been self-managing. And then I went out of state to buy a new construction single family home in Huntsville with a property manager. So it was more single family home, but this is the first time that I had a property manager. So at this point, this is when I did a lot of new. So this is when I bought my 26 unit apartment complex, which is a new asset class, a new state, and a new property manager. So as you can see, this is adding variables into the equation. And then smart me decided to buy a mobile home park 3 months later from closing my new apartment complex in a new state, new property manager. And I bought a mobile home park, which is a new asset in a new state with a new property manager. And it's a completely different asset class with mobile home parks. So I bought that. And then probably 6 months later, I bought a 20 unit apartment complex. It was in Oklahoma. So it was the same state. It was a new property manager. So as you can see, it started to vary. And then recently I've been just buying 2 deals in Huntsville, Alabama, which is just more of what I have in Huntsville, right? Single family homes. So in this equation, I deviated from more, right? Like if I was probably more savvy and smarter, I would have just bought more of what I owned already. If I wanted to keep things simple, right? As I always say, keep it simple, stupid. Simple scales, fancy fails. So like in hindsight, I'm like, well, when I did my huge cash out refinance, I didn't have to go buy my 26 unit apartment complex, my mobile home park, and my 20 unit. I just could have bought a lot more single family homes in California or in Huntsville, Alabama. But when you're first starting off in real estate, you're tempted to trick yourself into thinking, oh, if I own different assets in different areas, you have diversification. That just creates complexity and a logistical nightmare to manage. So I could have easily taken that $1 million. And this was during like 2021. I could have bought, I don't know how many single family homes in Huntsville. Actually, I probably could. It would probably been on average around, let's say $250K each if I'm buying it cash. So I probably could have easily bought probably 4 all cash if I wanted to. Back then interest rates were like 3.5%. So I probably could have probably bought a lot more. Like the mindset of me back then would have been like 25% down each property, which would have been around $60,000 each. So I could have bought a lot of these single family homes, right? With like, let's just call it $70,000 down at $1 million. So I could have bought 10 essentially with $700K, which is 25% down. And I still would have $300,000 left over to do with what I wanted. So I literally could have bought 10 of these properties and each one would have rented for $2,000 a month each. So that would have been, $20K a month gross in rental income from these properties if I just did more, right? Or I could have bought, maybe some in the Bay Area or some in Southern California. Hindsight's 2020, but I could have bought a piece of real estate for $800,000 and now it'd be worth, $1.2 million. And back then I was targeting homes with big lots to build ADUs. Never had built my ADUs until now. I'm waiting to sell my 20 to build my ADU. But I could have bought another single family home in Orange County that I was gonna house hack. And I would have basically got something of a big lot to be able to build an ADU in the backyard, as well as convert the garage into a junior ADU. So I could have had 2 of these properties that I'd be building, right? So I could have used $300,000 to basically buy a single family home and probably put like 25% down And from there, I could have bought probably 7 of these new builds in Huntsville, or sorry, 10 of these new builds in Huntsville for $700,000. And my portfolio would be a lot smaller, but it'd be a lot more simpler. I just would have had, instead of, let's say, 3 properties in Huntsville, I just would have had 13 using the same property manager. I would have economies of scale. I could negotiate a lower property management rate because I have like 13 properties, and I just talked to one property manager, right? And then the one I bought in Southern California, it's just me self-managing it. I already self-managed my ones in California, so it just would have been me adding to it. And then now in hindsight, I could have had 2 properties where I would have built 2 ADUs on, right? I could have built an ADU detached and convert the garage. And remember, the 3-bedroom, 2-bath in Orange County rents for about, let's say, $3,500 to $3,700. And the 1-bedroom, 1-bath garage unit rents for, let's say, $2,300 to $2,500. So, I would have had a formula. I would have used the same contractor to build my ADUs, could have negotiated scale, and it would have been new construction, and I would have paid cash, so I would have owned it like free and clear. So in this scenario, I just would have had a very simple portfolio, 13 doors in Huntsville, Alabama, which would gross about $26K, $2,000 each. And I would have had just 1 more in Southern California. So, I'd probably be like a little under 20 doors, maybe 18, 19 doors, but it would have been a lot more simpler and a lot more easy in terms of that. So it's quite interesting just seeing that, right? Just seeing that like pan out. Like this could have been my alternate life, Steven. Like I would never have done apartments, never done a mobile home park, and would have kept things a lot more simple. And it's kind of funny now because now I'm working to simplify, right? I'm working to basically sell my 20 unit to basically build the 2 ADUs. I'm working to basically, buy more, well, not buy anymore, but like just optimize like what I have. And even if I sell my 20 unit, I get rid of 1 property manager, so I'd be down to 2, 1 in Huntsville and 1 in Oklahoma City. And then if I want to sell my own Oklahoma City in the future, I could, probably 1031 exchange it into a bunch in Huntsville, or just buy some in the Bay Area, or buy, 1 in Southern California where I can build another ADU, right? So like there's, multiple ways that you could skin that cat, but that just would have been doing more of what I've done, right? So I in hindsight, maybe should have done that, but I think for me, I was hesitant in doing more in Huntsville because I didn't really know the area. It was still new for me, relatively speaking, but I could have just waited, had the money, and like I said, back then interest rates were like 3.5%, and I could have bought a bunch of deals for $70,000 down. And back then with 3.5% interest rates at a purchase price of like, let's say 250, 260, these definitely would be cash flowing. So, could have stacked up on these properties over that time, but hindsight's always 20/20, and I don't regret what I did today. I think it allowed me to scratch the itch of like trying multifamily. Obviously mobile, I probably should have not done the mobile home park. That was probably a little too extreme, but I should have just dived into multifamily, see what it's like. Because, you always hear stuff like, oh, it's easier to manage a 120 unit apartment complex versus 20 single family homes. And I used to believe that, economies of scale, but like now that I've owned multifamily longer, there's some pros and cons to multifamily, which people don't talk about enough. So obviously with single family homes, the value is based on the sales comps, not on the income. With multifamily, the value is based on the income. So that's a pros and a con, right? If you can increase the net operating income by increasing the expense, by decreasing expenses, increasing income, then you can increase the NOI, and then you can then increase the value. But the flip side is true too, where with insurance with multifamily, it's a lot more expensive than single family homes. So for context, I bought an apartment complex for $350K, and let's say it's similar pricing to my property in Huntsville, which is, let's say, close to $300,000. The insurance for my Huntsville single family home is about $800 versus my insurance on my $350K apartment complex that I bought, that's my 20 unit, is around $10,000, right? Not that much different in pricing, but the insurance is, more than 10, 11 times the cost. So with apartments, the insurance is the variable. Insurance is a variable, and it makes sense because there's more people, there's more kitchens, there's more risk. Right, so insurance can like increasingly significantly, and I always get scared when I get my renewal for my insurance for my multifamily. Like, is it gonna double or triple on me? So that's always a fear. Versus single family homes, it's been pretty consistent, at least the ones I've owned in Huntsville and California. It hasn't like gone up significantly over time, but I switched a lot of them over to steadily. So I was able to save a decent amount of money doing that, at least $500 per policy for steadily. So another thing about like multifamily is the insurance. So the insurance gets assessed a lot more frequently versus single family homes. So single family homes, property tax doesn't really go up that much more, because I think a lot of people live in these homes. They want to protect the owners, the homeowners who live in there for a long time. So I forgot what prop it is, but they can only increase property tax by like X percentage. But in multifamily, they can reassess it any time. And that's why I'm afraid for my 26 unit. So when I bought it for $500,000, that's what I offered. That's what the tax test price was. And it's always been $500,000 from 2021 all the way to 2025. But when I logged in this year to pay property tax for my 26 unit apartment complex, I noticed the value is $1.6 million, which is closer to what it's actually valued at. But what I'm afraid for 2026, which may happen to me because they reassessed it at $1.6 million, is, well, if I was paying $7,000 in property tax at a $500,000 valuation, well, now it's worth, let's say $1.5 million, 1.6, close enough. And they might triple my property tax on me. So next year I might pay $21,000 to property tax. And what's that gonna do? That's gonna be $14,000 more in expense. That's about $1,000 extra in expenses. So that's gonna cut into my income, and that's gonna lower my net operating income. And what's that gonna do? That's gonna lower the value of my asset, right? So if that's truly the case, then maybe I have to consider, doing a 1031 exchange, selling it and moving into maybe more properties in Huntsville. Maybe I sell it, take the money, pay off some debt. Maybe I sell it and then 1031 exchange it into, maybe a single family home in Orange County where I can build more ADUs, right? So, I'm just reassessing my options consistently. And if I do that, if I get rid of both of my apartment complexes, I'm down to just one property manager. Again, like back to my original example. So yeah, that's another like difference too, is property tax gets constantly reassessed, insurance goes up, and then, in apartments, you have a lot more turnover, right? So like, if you have a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, people stay in apartments for an average, maybe 2 to 3 years, best case. If you have 1-bedroom apartments, there's even more turnover, because a lot of times people, they couple up, they want a little cheaper rent, so they live together in a 2-bedroom, and like if a 1-bedroom is $2,000, a 2-bedroom is, let's say, $2,500, it's still cheaper to like have a 2-bedroom and have a roommate. Or like if you have like a kid or something, you can live in a 2-bedroom. The married couple lives in one room, the kid can be in the other room. So it's really about the turnover. In single family homes, you have a higher quality tenant. They take care of the property better because they feel like it's their property. I think the average tenant stays around like 3 to 5 years in a single family home. My single family homes, like in California, I had the same tenant since. I only rented out one time and had the same tenant because they've been super stable. They take care of the property, and I've had no like issues or complaints, minus one tenant like being on a payment plan after falling behind on rents. So, but like in terms of taking care of the property, and before this little hiccup, it's been pretty good. So with apartments, you have more turnover, more evictions, and then when they leave, you have to do make ready costs like repaint the unit, clean up certain repairs, and it's more work for your property manager. And the rents are a little bit lower too. Like in Oklahoma, I'm getting about $700, $800 in rent, versus in Huntsville, I'm getting $2,000 because it's an A-class new single family home. And then in California, I'm getting like $4,000 to $5,000 in rents because the rents are higher here. So it's more tenants, lower rents. So like for like my Huntsville, Alabama property, I get $2,100 in rent. That's 3 units in my Oklahoma City apartment complex, and that's 4 units in my 20 unit, which is in Enid, Oklahoma, because the rents are lower. So that's what I'm saying. Like I've probably made money on my 20 and my 26 unit in terms of forced depreciation because I bought it right. So when I sell, I'm not going to lose money, which is a good thing. But yeah, it's just a lot more headache than I would have liked. And had I just bought a bunch of new construction in Huntsville, things would be a lot more simpler, right? But hindsight's always 20/20, like I said. So once again, if I took the concept of doing more instead before new and better, that would have been good for me, right? So I should have just waited, saw Huntsville did, and then use that $1 million that I pulled out. I probably could have bought one in Orange County because I knew that area. I lived nearby, and I saw how well that one was performing, so I could have bought one there. that probably would have done like $250,000, $300,000 down if I bought $1 million property and did 25% down, roughly. And then I could have saw how the Huntsville property is done, and then bought, like I said, I could have bought so many of them with $70,000, $80,000 down each, right? And that's how you kind of have like the massive growth and then the massive scale. So like you said, do more before new and better. So, why I say this is because it's kind of reminding me for my own self, like I have shiny object syndrome. Like I need just to create more content before I try doing something new and different, right? So that's why, I started posting once a week to 3 times a week to, every day now that I post. And then now I want to do a live stream, maybe 1 day a week, 2 days a week, and maybe eventually I can do a live stream every single day on top of doing 1 video a day, right? So like it's just doing more of something before doing something new or something better. So, and same with business, like I am, something new that I'm doing is I'm becoming a real estate broker, but it's tangential to like real estate. And I want to sell like Lennar new build homes, which I'm buying, right? Like I bought literally 3 Lennar homes, and that's what I'm going to sell. And I want to sell it in Huntsville, where I have my property manager, Oklahoma, where I have my property manager, and then in California, because I live in California. So like it's that's all I want to sell. I just want to sell Lennar new build homes in Alabama, Oklahoma if you want cash flow, in California if you want to live there, or if you have a large down payment, you can afford it, great, right? So it's just my reminder of like, just do more before you do new or better. So, just wanted to share my insights and my thoughts on this, because like it just really hit me as I was thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, my portfolio wouldn't sound cool to be like, yeah, I bought like 10 single family homes in Huntsville, new construction. And yeah, I just bought it 25% down, locked in a 4% interest rate or less, and rent to the same property manager. And I know exactly what the rents are, which is around $2,000, and it's new construction. So it's not much headache, not much renovation, right? But like I said, I did learn a lot, buying my apartment complexes, and I renovated like 90 units in like a year period, 2 years. So I did learn a lot about renovation. I did learn a lot about, multifamily. And like I said, there are pros and cons to multifamily. And like, to kind of summarize, multifamily, 5+ doors, your insurance can go up because there's more risk. Your property tax can be reassessed more frequently. Typically your rent's gonna be a little bit lower. You're gonna have more turnover. And the value is based on the income, so it can go up and down. So the value can go up if you're a good operator, or it can go down if you're a bad operator, or you can be a good operator and your property tax can triple on you, and your insurance can triple on you, and now your income is a lot less. And once that happens, your NOI goes down, the value goes down. So like, it's not always great. So, I made a lot of money through it, but maybe it doesn't make sense to keep. Who knows? Right? Who knows? But I have options, right? Because I know my 26 unit would be very desirable if I want to sell that. I know that for sure. So I can always do a 1031 exchange in the future, if I want to. So it's, and like I say, it wouldn't sound sexy to be like, hey, I own like 10 of these in Huntsville. Like, okay, cool. So, that's something that I've been reflecting on. And like I said, it's still an option. Like I could take the money that I put into my ones in Huntsville and then just like buy a lot more, right? Because all my money is trapped in my mobile home park note, my 26 unit, my 20 unit. But if I sell my 20 unit, that'll access that capital. I can 1031 exchange my 26 unit, which I doubled in value. I put about $400,000 of money in that deal, and I've probably made around $800,000. So I doubled that money. And then my mobile home park note, hopefully it'll just come back to me. I lost money, $100,000 on my mobile home park. So, chalk that up. So anyways, I just want you to learn from my story as to why sometimes doing more is better actually than trying to go for something new. And it keeps it simple. Like you said, I just would have 1 property manager that I have to deal with. And I just have and they're just managing like 13 brand new construction properties. So not much can go wrong. And I just had 1 more property in Orange County, which I'm self-managing, and it would have given me the option to do another, 2 ADUs. And remember, I was saying my one property where I'm building 2 ADUs, it can gross $10,000 a month, right? With the backyard unit and the garage unit free and clear, the main house would have some debt on it, and that's about $10,000 a month gross. And I could have 2 of them. That would be $20,000 a month gross, and the main house would have debt on it, but the 2 ADUs would be in the backyard and 2 in the garage would be paid off. So, that's what it is. But, like I said, real estate investing is a journey. And the key is you want to take action and then reflect on what you've done and see, did that make sense, or what you should have done in hindsight, right? Because like I said, hindsight's always 20/20. But at least I took action, and I scratch all my itches, and I just want to do more. I don't want to do new. I just want to optimize what I have, and if I do buy more, I just want to buy currently where I own, and not do nothing fancy, right? So anyways, hopefully you found value. Let me know what questions you have. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you want to join my school community on a free trial, check it out. It's only $30 a month, $1 a day, pretty affordable. You have access to me to do a Q&A, and I have a preview of my course in there. If you want to my course, I just lowered the price to $300, so it's significantly cheaper. So if you're on the fence, jump in. I have coaching. If you want to use Steadily Landlord Insurance to see if you can save some money, it's free. You just punch in the address, and they'll usually give you a call or a text or an email or all the above to give you a quote to see if your current policy is good or not, or maybe you can save some money. Why not? If you want to use Lending One, who's my preferred debt service coverage ratio lender, check that out. If you want to send me an email, also down the link tree down below. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe. Hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.